Hello YouTube world, Professor VJ back with another video. I actually wanted to do a follow-up to a previous video that I did on Howard University with the student housing issues and the protests and all the fallout. As many of you know, unless you've been under a rock, this situation is still ongoing. There's not been a resolution that's satisfactory to both the students and the administration and the leadership of the university. So there was an update that I wanted to share with you. This was an article that I found on yahoo.com online, and this was dated November 3rd, so there have probably been even more updates since then. But I thought it was some very interesting updates, and I wanted to share it with you if you had not already heard about it. And of course, I'll give my thoughts at the end. So the article states, Howard University says student protests caused layoffs. Howard University said employees have been laid off due to weeks of student protests against dorm housing conditions, the institution said Tuesday. Students claim that mold, mice, roaches, and fleas are common in dorms and have camped out inside the university's social hub, the Armour J. Blackburn University Center, for more than 2 weeks demanding change. We're sad to report the occupation of Blackburn has led to an unintended consequence for the HU community, the college wrote on Twitter. Due to the cafe being closed, some Sodexo, I guess that's the vendor that handles the cafe and food services there at the university, workers have been laid off. We are committed to working with our students to avoid more repercussions like this one. A spokesperson for the food service business Sodexo told CBS News that some employees at Howard University have also been relocated to work at different locations on campus where it is possible, which that's always a good thing. The article goes on to state, Sodexo respects the students' rights to peaceful protest, the spokesperson said. We remain committed to providing exceptional service during these difficult times, and we hope that both parties will soon come to a mutually beneficial resolution. I think the world, including myself, that is my hope and my prayer. Protesters have demanded an updated housing plan to accommodate current and future classes before 2022 and to appoint current and former students to the board of directors. I'm not going to read the whole article. I'm just going to go through highlights. Okay, so the protest continues amid homecoming, which was about a week or 2 weekends ago. One of the school's most popular events for alumni students that intended to highlight the school's culture and community. Organizers have encouraged planned attendees to boycott the week-long celebration to bring added awareness to the protest cause. Howard President Wayne A. Frederick encouraged the university's community to tune into his State of the University address, which was scheduled to take place on November 5th. He said the presentation would be an opportunity to converse with students. And this is a quote from President Frederick. I'm sure it will be an illuminating opportunity for the entire Howard community to learn more about the present and future outlook of our university and to hear more about current updates on our campus, Frederick said regarding homecoming. So I'm going to stop there, and I'll come back with another video once I've had a chance to review President Franklin's meeting with the students or his address, and what the responses from the students, and if there's a resolution in the next week or so. Hopefully there is, because again, what is most important is that students are losing valuable time that they should be in class. And I've mentioned in my previous video, if you go back and watch my previous video, I gave a lot more information, some statistics on funding at Howard over the last 2 years. As an alumni of Howard, which I mentioned before, this really saddens me a great deal. As a very proud alumni of Howard University, I stand on the shoulders of a lot of great leaders that have passed through the halls, through the classrooms, through various aspects of the university, the board of directors, professors, the leadership of that university. So I don't want to diminish the greatness of Howard, but what's happening now is unacceptable on all levels. And if you think about it this way, again, I lived in the dorms at Howard more than 30 years ago, and there were issues then. We never protested while I was there. We probably protested the meal plan and the food quality, but it wasn't the housing. Again, in my generation, we were so happy to be a part of it. I had family members that had attended Howard, which is part of my decision to go there. In fact, Howard University was the only university that I had actually applied for, and I had been offered scholarships at other universities. Other universities had, sent me information, recruited me because, during that time I was, the top of my class in a lot of activities, a well-rounded student, a very good student. So, it saddens me that, I picked that university because of its reputation, because of its legacy, because of the proud leaders that have given back to this nation in various capacities, have given back to their local communities and the community at large. Just really, in my opinion, have been very impactful, as I feel that I am in the role that I have right now. I'm a professor in a university, and I teach students who are, in many cases, the first in their families to go to college. So this really hits me on two levels, well, three: as an alumni, as a professor, and as someone that understands the value of education, who has been a benefactor of education at Howard. I've been able to use that education to do great things in my life, and I'm very grateful. I'm very proud of that. But I'm not happy with what's going on right now. No one should be happy. This situation should come to a resolution. The students should not feel more comfortable sleeping in a tent in the elements in Washington, D.C. than they do in their own dorms that they're paying for. The analogy that I think of is, think about yourself. If you pay for a really nice hotel and then you're more comfortable sleeping in your car than the hotel room that you're paying for, that absolutely makes no sense. And that's what, is an example, an analogy that I have for this situation. So it really hurts me deeply that, my university is being broadcast all over the world in such a negative light. This is not the Mecca that I attended. The dorms were old and they were raggedy when I was there. I mean, I just want to be completely transparent, but they were livable. They weren't to the degree, especially when you're talking about mold, which can be very fatal because it causes a lot of medical issues. As a parent, I would not want to send my son or daughter to a university where they couldn't even sleep in the dorm that I'm paying for. Howard University has become a very expensive school, and rightly so, because of the quality of the education there. From what I understand, it's $45,000-$50,000 a year. This is unacceptable on all levels. And in my opinion, having worked in corporate America for many years, as a business owner, again as a professor, many capacities, this is a failure of leadership. If any organization, if any business had such a monumental failure, it comes from the top. Someone has to take responsibility. In my opinion, there should be some resignations and or terminations. Again, my background is HR, so I've dealt with very complex issues with high-level C-suite individuals at organizations. I work for Fortune 500 companies, so I understand. And that's why this pains me, because someone has to take responsibility for what has happened. And I talked in my previous video about some of the mitigation things that they're doing right now, but it's a little too late. These are things that should have been in place a long time ago. The pest control issue, that should be a line item in their operating budget. I blame the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, the COO, Chief Operating Officer, Dean of Housing. If they don't have one, they should, create a position. Corporations do that all the time. Many companies have gone out and created positions because there is a need, because there's a crisis, because they have been in a situation like Howard finds itself in right now. There needs to be accountability. Someone has to take responsibility for this situation. There is no more passing the buck. As I mentioned, when I was there, I talked about this in my previous video about Howard student protests. In my freshman year, I stayed in the quad. Have fun memories of the quad. Anyone that's been a freshman there at Howard that stayed on campus, the quad was the hangout. There was this big wall in front of it where the local, residents always hung out on the wall, trying to see the freshman girls coming in, especially on move-in day in the fall. Great memories of that. A lot of interesting stories. But at any rate, anyone that's been to Howard, those stories, and you have great memories, I'm sure, as well. I stayed in the quad, and so there was 4 dorms that encompassed the quad. So I lived in Baldwin, which faced Sixth Street. So we could literally open the window and see everything going on. We could see down in the valley. We could see across to the Founders Library. We could see across the yard. We could literally see everything, that's going on in the immediate campus. So had a great location where my room was facing the main street there, Sixth Avenue. I think it was Sixth Avenue. At any rate, so my sophomore year, I lived in the Meridian Hill. That was off of, I believe, 13th Street. That was off-campus housing sponsored by Howard. So the quad was all females, and then Meridian was every other floor, male, female, so on and so forth. We shared common, probably I would say 25 people on the floor, and we shared the restrooms. I think it was only, now when I think about it, it was only one restroom, one of those like a commercial restroom with several stalls, and we had several showers. And back then we had payphones. There were no smartphones in the day that I was at Howard, so we were all fighting. The thing that we protested was, the number of the length of time that you could call home, because no one had phones. I guess some people had rotary phones in their the corded phones in their rooms, but we didn't have all these cell phones and all these tablets and computers and all that stuff. I don't even think I had a computer. We were still using typewriters in the 80s, going to the library, looking in the card catalogs. I'm just dating myself. But those are great memories. That's history for those of you that were born in the recent generations, and you don't even know what a typewriter probably is or what a card catalog is. And I actually worked all 4 years at the Architecture and Planning Library, which was down by it was down at the bottom of the valley. Those of you that have gone to Howard, all these locations I'm naming. Again, I have great memories of Howard. The professors that I had there, the knowledge that I gained, the wonderful students that were from literally all over the world. This is a global university. This is an international. Every state in the United States is represented at Howard. Probably every country in the world has students from that attend Howard. Not only the undergraduate, the law school, the medical school, the dental school, the professional schools. Again, Howard is a major player. It's one of the largest, if I'm not mistaken, HBCU, and perhaps why it's getting so much attention, and why it's so disheartening that we find ourselves, or they find themselves, but as an extension, I'm an alumni of the university. So I just wanted to come back and provide this update. And now, this is almost a slap in the face to the students. They're not trying to get anything more or less than what they paid for. They're not trying to get special privileges. They're not trying to get over on the university. They're not trying to get anything free. Again, any of you that have gone, not just to Howard, but any university, when you register at a university, I remember those days, the paperwork that you have to fill out, your parents have to fill out. I think it's the FAS or whatever that form is that you fill out for, trying to get grants and as much assistance as you can get. It's a package. You get the housing. You can opt in for the food plan, which is very expensive, and that's why I said we were protesting some of that quality of the food. We ended up paying for the food plan, but also having to, maybe weekends go to get fast food or whatever. But the plans had different options. So at any rate, I digress. So at any rate, that's part of the package. The housing is a part of it, and so if you as a parent are paying for something that you're not getting, you would be upset as well. When I lived in those 2 dorms I just mentioned, they were not in the best of conditions. There was neglect, but we didn't have mold. As I mentioned, mold is not something that happens overnight. That is a progressive, and as a homeowner, I know, and I live in a very warm climate, so I know mold is something that you have to stay on top of. If you have any type of leaks, any of you that have had leaks in your home, mold, or any of you that have been in hurricane zones, you have to literally gut out the walls, because Once that you have water damage, you know there's a line there. If you've been in a hurricane, a tornado, or anything, a flood, you know if you had a pipe burst in your home from washer dryer, whatever, you understand that mold is the first thing that you're thinking about anytime you have a leak of any sort. Mold is the first thing that you want to mitigate because you know the dangers, you know the cost to repair it. Nowadays, because it's so prevalent in warmer climates, that you have to have a special commercial company. It's called mold mitigation. And if you have an insurance company, they will require that you can't just have someone come in and spray bleach over and paint over it. That's not going to cut it because you have to get to the heart of the source, and that takes time and that takes money. But again, as anything, if you're a homeowner, you have to stay on top of those kind of repairs because they will get away from you. They become very costly, and in some cases that black mold can be deadly. You have the spores. It damages your furniture. It damages your equipment. Anyone that's had a leak in their home, they know exactly what I'm talking about. That's not anything that you want to delay addressing. The pest control situation, that is something that as a university they should have a contract with a commercial pest control company. I've lived in apartments when I was younger. They always had a commercial company that came out monthly to spray the apartment. Been in hotels, you see, there's pest control. You see they leave the little, I guess, sticker from the company. Sometimes it's inside of a cabinet. Sometimes it's on the back of the door. Sometimes it's in the wet areas, usually in bathrooms and kitchens, because that's where, that moisture. So, I mean, I know well, having been a homeowner about these things. As a university, there's a responsibility. Anytime there's communal living in an apartment, in a hotel, in a university setting, that there must be some type of ongoing pest control because you have different people from different backgrounds, from different levels of cleanliness that are living in one space. As I mentioned, my freshman year, there were 25 of us on, well, actually, I take that back. There may have been 30 people because we were doubled up our freshman year. I was in a single room when I was at Meridian my sophomore year, and then I moved off into an apartment my junior and senior year. But again, these are things that were preventable, but you have to address them as soon as they occur. Anyone that has owned a home knows that. Anyone that owns an automobile, once you hear that first knock, knock, knock on your car, you can pretend that it doesn't exist. You can turn your radio up, but it needs to be addressed. I'm just as an example. Anything that you have people in a living arrangement, such as a dormitory, they're close space. Like I said, if I'm not mistaken, we only had one restroom on the whole floor. 30 people, 30 women, no less, 30 women. And I think if I remember, we probably had 4 restroom stalls, 4 or 5, no more than 5. I remember that because it was a really old dorm. So maybe 4 restroom stalls and maybe 2 showers, and that's 30 women. And we had 8 o'clock classes, and so it was a constant. You were waiting a lot, just to get in and out of these. And now that I think about it, they didn't have like a cleaning service. I think they came once a week or maybe twice a week or something. I don't remember because I was, again, I was in class all day and then I worked right after class. I didn't get back to my dorm until like 10 o'clock at night. And then I had to go to study after I finished my work study. So I was a working student. I didn't spend much time in the dorms other than weekends. During the week, I was on a mission. I had to graduate in 4 years. So I was on a trustee scholarship. So it was imperative that I got really good grades. And I also volunteered and did other extracurricular. I was president of the Political Science Society and some other organizations I was involved in. I was a very active student as well as I was in high school. I don't know how I did all that stuff, but I did because I was very focused and very disciplined. But at any rate, I just wanted to come back and share this update that I received. So, in closing, I don't want to go off down memory lane. Again, as you can tell, I love the university. I love the experience that I had. I love the knowledge that it gave me, the confidence that it gave me, the wisdom that it gave me, and the sense of community to go out and pay it forward. You know, the saying goes, to those who are given much, much is required. And I've tried to do that my entire life. I've tried to give back to the community in the best way that I could. As I say, you know, in today's climate, you know, I try to instill nuggets of wisdom in my students each semester, so that they can go out, pay it forward, go out and be contributors in society, go back to their communities, in their workplaces, in their businesses, and just be their best selves. And that's what I've tried to be. So, Howard, please get it together. The alumni is watching, the parents are watching, the students are watching. Business leaders are watching, those who have given millions of dollars to this university. And in my go back to my last video, I talked about some of the funding that Howard has gotten in just the last 2 years. So that's why this is even more disheartening. So Howard, please, 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 set up a strategic plan, create some positions to address these issues. As I mentioned, if you don't get a dean of housing, get a chief operating officer just dedicated to this housing issue, because you know, I know it's not going to be resolved overnight, but you must have a plan in place. And I know, and I, you know, in my previous video I talked about some of the things that they're doing, but we have to have these deliverables, we have to have these action items, we need to have people in place who are competent to do the job that needs to be done. That's very, very important to the resolution of this. So thank you all for listening to my video. Again, Professor BJ here, and continue to lift the leadership up in prayer, the students in prayer, their families in prayer. Not to get very religious here, but it's going to take a village to resolve this issue. It's not just one party that's responsible, and it's not one party that's going to get the resolution that's needed. But my heart goes out to the students. Again, I was where they were. I don't know what I would have done if I had to sleep in a tent. My mother would have been livid, 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 livid. She sent me to this university to get an education, not to sleep in a tent. And that's, I'm sure, the sentiment of every parent right now that perhaps is in even another country. You know, sometimes you know, a lot of people are saying, well, why don't they just go home? It's not that easy. Again, this is a global university. They may not be able to just say, hey, I'm out of here, pack up and go back home. They may be from a whole nother country. With this situation right now that we're dealing with, logistically, it may not be possible. And they're paying for it. More importantly, they're paying for services that are not being given, or at least the quality of the service is not being provided. Think of yourself. If you go to the store, you buy something, if it's not up to your standards or the quality in which you think it should be, or that has been advertised, that's important. The quality of the service is not advertised. You want a refund. You want the company to make it right. And that's what the students are, they're wanting Howard to make this right. And I want Howard to make this right. So again, I don't want to throw the baby away with the bathwater, because Howard has been and perhaps will always be a beacon of hope for many students who are the first in their families to go to college. There's a great sense of pride to be a part of the Howard family, and I'm a proud member of that alumni association, but I'm not happy with what's going on right now. No one should be happy. So again, thank you. Have a great day. I know I said I was going to stop before, but again, I could probably, you know, talk about this all day, because I really love that university and love what it meant to me and what I gained from it. So this is really sad for me. So thank you, and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.